It's really recording. I just had to check. Okay. Hi, readers. It's Lori. Welcome back to my channel, Books, Ink, and Paper, or welcome if this is your first time. Today, we're going to talk about my top book for each month of the year 2025. I had to go back and look at these a little bit and create sort of my favorite for each month on a list. I will say that these are not all 5 stars. As you may remember, I had a couple of challenging months where I really struggled to find a 5 star read, but I had a good number of them this month. So we're going to talk about each one of them a little bit, but not in length because I have a video, I'm certain, about every one of them. But I think that I'm going to be able to pick one at the end. That's the trickiest part. If I were to pick one of some of these that really stood out for me, it's hard. So hopefully by the time I finish, I will be certain which one I want to choose. So let's get started. So the first one is January, and the top book that month was All the Colors of the Dark by Chris Whitaker. When I read this, I was so blown away by it that I really thought this was going to be my book of the year for 2025. It still could be, but it did there were a few other contenders that happened after, but I absolutely loved this story. The story is about a number of young people in the beginning, and it follows their journey into terror, into growth, into how they end up living, what they end up doing as a living, how they end up supporting each other, helping each other, how their stories evolve. It is so wonderful. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend it. And I gave this one 5 stars. The one in February was The Safe Keep by Yael Vanderwooden. This was a debut author, and I had expectations that were just regular until I read it. It was so beautiful. This was also a 5 star read for me. I would like to purchase this one at some point because I think I would reread this again. This is a queer life story, love story about siblings, about relationships, about parents' legacy, about sense of self and purpose and secrets as well. I can't recommend this one enough. It was on I think it was on the Booker Prize list. It won several awards last year. And again, for a debut novelist, this one was just beautiful. And I highly recommend it if this is your jam. It's historical fiction, but really, really good. March, All the Sinners Bleed by S.A. Cosby. I have come to love S.A. Cosby very, very much. This one was really dark and really graphic. All of his books, I think, are, but I just want you to be aware that this one was particularly detailed in the crimes that were happening, but this was about a serial killer that was in this community and a law enforcement officer who is determined to find out what's happening, along with his team of people that work with him. Small community, very unlikely that this would happen, can't seem to stop it. And again, the descriptions of some of the violence are really difficult, I would say. So just be really sensitive to your own ability to be with this and know that it's S.A. Cosby. So I want to get to the third one, King of Ashes, that's on my list, but I gave that one 4 stars. I don't know what would have given it 5. It's been a while since I read it, but I think just maybe the gore was a lot. I mean, I think it was purposeful to the story, but I also think it was sometimes a little bit off-putting for me. So that's probably what it was. Another 4 star read in April was The Lost Bookshop, and I need to look up the author, Evie Woods, or also it says Evie Gaughan. Gaughan. So I'm not sure if that's the same person with two different names. I have no idea. But I read this one toward the end of April, and I really enjoyed this one too. It was a bit of magical realism for sure. The Lost Bookshop is indeed about a bookshop that appears and then disappears. It's about a community of people who are connected to two different timelines and people who are both good and not so good, people that are supportive and maybe not so supportive. I don't want to get into a whole lot of detail about each one of these, but the character development in this one was very rich, as was the atmosphere that was created through the writing. I had never read anything by Evie Woods before, and I was really pleased to discover that this one was an enjoyable one. So she has a couple of other books on her list, and I think I have looked at one of them that came out this year and one that came out the year before. So I probably would return to this author, and I really would recommend this one. I'm not sure, again, what would have given it the boost to 5 because it's been a while since I read it. I have no idea. I have no idea what didn't make it a 5, but it was really good. A 4 is a great score, and I think I'm a little stingier with my 5, so that might be the issue. In May, I read We Begin at the End by Chris Whitaker. I purchased this because I loved All the Colors of the Dark so much, and I had expectation that this would not necessarily be a 5-star read. However, it was. I don't think it was as good as All the Colors of the Dark, but I did really enjoy this one. This is also about a small community of people, many of whom know each other very well. I did tab some quotes in this one, but Vincent King, who went to prison years ago, and his best friend has tried diligently to reach out to Vincent after that happened, and they don't have much of a connection anymore. His best friend becomes a police officer, and his name is Walk. I know, Walk. That says in the synopsis there are two kinds of families, the ones we're born into and the ones we create. This is also about Duchess and her little brother. They have a mother who is really challenging. She uses drugs. She's pretty, I don't know if I would say she's a prostitute, but she's close to it, if not. I'm trying to remember if she actually was collecting money for that or if it was just for dancing. But she has Duchess as a daughter, and then Duchess's little brother, who's like in kindergarten. Duchess is about 13. And so the mother is killed toward the beginning of this book. And you know this from the synopsis. It was really well done. Lots of characters, lots of darkness, lots of difficulty. Duchess is not an easy character, but you do love her and her brother so much because you want them to succeed. You want them to be better. There's just so many twists and turns in it, but I really did enjoy this, and I highly recommend this one too. I want to at some point read Chris Whitaker to 0. In June, this one is one of the ones that's vying for the book of the year. I read JFK, Stephen King, 11/22/63. I started this when we were on vacation in May. I finished it in June. It was a very quick read for me. I did a combination of ebook as well as this copy. I had the ebook on loan, I think, but this is a chunker, obviously. This was one of my big book summer reads for June, so I knew I wasn't going to complete this in May when I first started it. I mean, I just knew there was no way. There is a book club insert at the back of this as well with questions for you to answer. This is 849 pages without the book club details. I think this is Stephen King's masterpiece. I really do. It is not horror. It is sci-fi to some degree, dystopian kind of thing, but it's about time travel, and it is about the assassination of JFK, and can one man go from the future back into the past and keep that from happening? And that's the question you have to determine when you read this book. So well done, so emotional, cried. I really, really stayed true to this, and I'm so glad that I read it, and I want to read it again already. And, I only read it a few months ago. So that was a good Wonderful thing. This one, Part of Your World, Abby Jimenez. This was a rough month for July. I think after the hangover that I had from reading 11/22/63, so that might have been part of it. Also, I just didn't love this one as much as I loved some of the others in this series, but I did finish it. I actually gave this a 3.5, so this is the lowest one on this list that I rated, but I did like it. This is about a young man who has an Airbnb kind of or a hotel kind of situation in his little town. And his name is Daniel. He's a carpenter. He's young. He's about 10 years older than the main character in this book, whose name is Alexis. She's a doctor, as I remember. Yes, she is a doctor. She's a surgeon. See, if I don't remember a lot about it, it's not as high of a rating for sure. But I did enjoy it. I did keep up with it. I did finish it pretty fairly easily. I would say that I think part of it was that there were just some, I don't know, some other things that were maybe not necessary, but and they're all kind of slightly predictable, but I knew that going in. It just didn't quite have the touch to it that some of the others have, but I did enjoy it and I do recommend that you read it. So that one also kind of got me past a couple of Book of the Month Club books that I had gotten. Then in August, Typewriter Beach by Meg Waite Clayton. This was a buddy read for me. I've talked about it in that video as well, so you know. But this starts in 1957 with a young actress who's on the set with Hitchcock and hoping to be picked up for one of his films. And so there's this backstory for her, the people she meets, the guys she's maybe got a bit of a crush on, and just kind of how that lifestyle is. Fast forward to 2018, 26-year-old writer Gemma Chazon goes back to her grandfather's home because he's passed away to go through his things and to then discover some things about him that she didn't know and about some of the people that he knew and that he supported. Loved this. Not a long read. Very deep, though, in terms of the content, the plot, the development of the characters. The timelines are very accurately described. I really like this one a lot. I think it probably doesn't get the hype that it deserves, but I'm a big fan of Meg Waite Clayton's anyway, so I highly recommend that one. September, I read the third book in the series written by Anne Cleeves, and that was The Raging Storm. So this book carries on with Matthew Venn, and at this point there is indeed a raging storm and someone is found dead as a result of that storm and someone in their community. It's a small area. Matthew's been there multiple times before in book 1 and book 2, but he is then discovering that maybe something happened to this man before he died and some other things start to come up to the surface, if you will, and he has to, along with his team, try to find out what's happening in this community and why these people are experiencing what they're experiencing, and trying to find the clues when there's a raging storm and things are washed away is really difficult. I enjoyed this one just as much, if not maybe a little bit more than some of the others, but it was really, really good. So I do think that I will reread those, and I'll probably grab that in paperback so it matches the other two that I have. But I do recommend that you start with book 1, but you don't have to. So just so you know, you could go straight on to book 3. There's some backstory about Matthew's husband and about some of the things that he's been through in his life, and of course the way that these people treat him, because he lived in this town when he was younger, and they were all super religious to the point that it was a kind of not a traditional religion. There were some extreme things that they would do, and so he broke away from that. So there's some bad blood with some of the people that he was in town with and not from some of the others. So I really enjoy these, and I want to read more Anne Cleeves. I'm just not sure that I want to get to the Vera series because that's a lot. I feel like maybe the one she just started or maybe one that's a little bit shorter, but I do enjoy her writing very much. And then in October, I read Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. So I was back to my 5 stars. Happy again after several months of not having a 5-star read. I got back to this and I wasn't sure that I would love it that much, but I did. This is another one that's kind of in the contender list for the best book of the year. I enjoyed this one so much. Space, travel, astronaut training, they had me there. But also, this is a queer life read. It is very telling of that time period. So this one is set back in the 80s. And of course, women were not as open about coming out with each other, especially not in this kind of work. So they were hiding a lot of things, had some great friends. So there's great character development. The atmosphere, ironically, because it's called that, I would say is lesser of a plot point than the actual plot and the actual characters for sure. I mean, that it's set in the space shuttle, which is kind of closed, right? But also it's set in this kind of training space, so it's not like a lot of different things, and they do have a couple of homes and stuff, but that's really not a focus of this book. It's really more about these characters and their development as well as this plot, and I highly recommend this if you like Taylor Jenkins Reid. She does write love stories, but I think she does them very well, and they aren't always as predictable. I've loved several of hers now, not all of them, but several. So I probably will try to look at Carrie Soto this next year. I don't know that I'll purchase it, but I have had a lot of friends. It doesn't, Carrie Soto's character in another book did not really hit with me well, but people say that it's good. And you don't have to like tennis to read it. So that's a good thing for me to know. But I might get to that one because I hear lots of good things, but I do love her. And I'm sure she'll have another one soon. In November, another contender for 5-star best book of the year is Theo of Golden, which was recommended to me by Krista. And I had heard a lot of people talking about this book beyond her hype around it too. But when people start to hype a book up, you think, is it possible that it will be that good? Yes, it is in this case. For me, again, not for everyone, but for me, I would say this was incredibly deep and rich, and it just uplifted me in a way that I really needed. It was well written. This is Alan Levy or Levi, but it is a story of a man who comes to a small community. His name is Theo, and the community's city name is Golden. And he goes into a coffee shop and discovers a number of portraits on the wall painted by someone locally, and he falls deeply in love and engaged with these photos. And he finds out that these photos are all from a person in this little community of Golden. So he makes it his goal to reach out to each of them with a letter handwritten to see if he could meet with them and learn more about them. They're very suspicious at first, but he begins to immerse himself in this community to learn about each of them. They all have different stories, different backgrounds, different reasons for being there, different opportunities, and different challenges. And I absolutely cried through this one. That's the key. 5 stars means tears. I cried, and I cried. This one was so well done. And I hope that he writes something else because I can't wait to see what that one might be about. But I highly recommend Theo of Golden. So you can see my problem because the last one in the month of December of 2025 was My Friends by Frederick Bachman, which I also cried, and I cried, and I cried. So this one actually, ironically, I've been watching other booktubers with their year-long wrap-ups, and this one has tied with Theo of Golden a lot. I can see why. This one is dark. A lot of these are. This one is an author that I enjoy very, very much. His writing in this one, I think, surpassed others that I've read. The beauty of it, the way that it hit you in the heart, in the mind, in the soul, was really quite something. And I was shocked by how much I got into this book and how quickly I devoured this book. I thought that it was going to be a challenging read for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe because I was challenged all year, but I really, really, really recommend it. I did not tab this one as I went along. I did highlight some passages. I did start then to highlight in my actual book, which those of you who know me know that I don't do very often, and I've shared this with you before, but there were some passages in this book that just deserve to be somewhere where people can see them every day. So this is about a group of friends. They're all facing some challenges, many financial challenges, parents who are not necessarily taking good care of them, parental illness, just, feeling like they're not accepted by others, bullied by other people in their communities. They all come together, they form a relationship. The relationship continues for a long time, but one of them paints something that turns out to be one of the most expensive pieces of art in the world. And the story of that and who ends up with it and what the journey is with some of these characters is incredible. I cannot recommend this enough. And so now you know why I have a dilemma. I have a dilemma. So I have four of these books that I could make my number one if I were going to choose one. Which one do you think it will be? I just don't know. I'm going to hold them up for you, but they're all pretty chunky and heavy. I mean, I really devoted myself, right? Yeah, so one of these is going to stand out for me forever. And I can't say that talking about these for you today did me any good because I don't know. I think I could, as much as I liked it, I think I could say that this is not as good as these others. So it would really be down to the wire here. I'm surprised to say this, but I really think it's going to be this one. And I'm really, really surprised. It could be just the recency of it, because I'm still feeling the feels, even though I read it a while ago. But I think it's this. However, having said that, I really could have just said all of these are my favorite books of 2025 because they really are. And these are my very favorites, but this one stands out. And so that's what I'm going to go with. And a year from now, I might say, what was wrong with you? You should have picked 11/22/63, or you should have gone with all the colors in the dark. There's no shoulds in my life right now. Any of these would do, right? Any of these would make it. So I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I hope that you will comment if you have read any of these, and if you did, which one would have been your favorite of the year if you were having to battle between these, or just which one is your favorite of 2025, because I'm always curious about that. And because you share those things, I end up learning about books that are really, really good, and so you help me to discover what to put on my list to read in the next year or several years to come. So if you didn't like them, that's really okay too. Feel free to tell me that you didn't and tell me why, because I'm always open to that. If you wouldn't mind liking this video, I would love it if you would do that, and subscribe if you haven't already, as I say every time. But I love these wrap-up videos for the year, and so I hope you love them as much as I do. If there's another video that you'd like me to talk about for the end of the year, put it in the comments fairly quickly. I'll do it in January for sure, but I want to make sure that if there's a great idea that you have and you want to see, that I'm able to consider if that's going to work for me as well. So pop it in. Whatever you'd like to hear about, let me know. And as always, happy reading. Bye.